All right, everybody, welcome to another episode of PitchUs. We've got some great entrepreneurs and some great guests. My name is Tim Cooley. I'm the author of the Pitch Deck book. Joined with me today is Jeff Erickson. Jeff, why don't you do a quick introduction?
Jeff Erickson at Forecaster. We do financial modeling and make it easy for startup founders. Also a angel investor and startup advisor. And we're excited to have Kat and Katie join us today, two celebrity guests. So Kat, do you want to introduce yourself, and then Katie?
Yeah, thanks so much for having us. So I am the founder of Power to Pitch, but got my start by winning 22 of 23 pitch competitions with my first company, sold and exited, to now helping founders understand investor psychology, how to pitch, create a deck, go through due diligence, and then we directly connect them to investors in their industry.
Hi, I'm Katie Dunn. I am a reformed commercial real estate lender turned angel investor, and now work with Kat and bringing the investor perspective to Power to Pitch. And thanks for having us. We're really excited to be here.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you guys for being here. So awesome. Especially if you've won 23 pitches, then, I mean, Brian, you're in for some...
23, she won.
Yeah,
Either
Brian,
way.
we're trying to get Kat's expert opinions here.
Yeah, let's go. I'm going to... whatever. We'll see. So, okay, Brian, why don't you go ahead, share your screen, and then pitch us.
Okay, awesome. I am sharing right now. Okay, does that look good?
Yep.
Okay, awesome. Well, thanks so much. It's truly an honor to be here. Unfortunately, my other founder who wanted to be here was not able to come, but regardless, I'm very excited to be here. So I'll just delve into it. I don't think I need to make us aware of the huge issues facing us around water. I know people who've worked really hard on developing their landscapes, and they're drying up now because they're only allowed to water, twice a week. And, this is just one example in a sea, or I guess a desert, of issues around water. And we've thought, is this really the solution, or are there better, smarter ways of solving these issues? And we know that there are. And so with that, I'd like to tell the story of Thrive and how we're going to revolutionize the irrigation space. So before I get too much ahead of myself, this is kind of how a typical irrigation system works. You have the controller, which is the brains of the system, and this sends a signal underground through wire out to your valves, which open and close to allow water to flow to your sprinkler heads. Now, this is the way that all 70 million plus irrigation systems work, with this lengthy wiring. And as you can imagine, this wiring poses some huge issues. And I like to note that even smart controllers that you can talk to with your phone will still rely on that wiring from the controller to the valves. And so this wiring, some of the issues that it has is, first of all, installing wiring is time-consuming and labor-intensive. These wires are a common failure point in irrigation systems. They can fail from anything because of moisture, roots, rodents, construction. And fixing them requires you to retrench through dirt and concrete, or to use Band-Aid solutions that essentially end up splitting your system and disconnecting these valves from these oftentimes, water-saving and smart irrigation controllers. That's why you can have properties that, have these really smart irrigation controllers, but they're still, watering in the pouring rain, or have stations that are running too long, or are not able to detect leaks in their pipes and their sprinkler heads. So with all this, an estimated $411 million is spent on irrigation wiring and their problems per year. And that's where Thrive comes in. So our mission is to deliver a completely wireless irrigation system that is reliable, environmentally friendly, and affordable. And we're fulfilling that with our completely wireless irrigation system, the Thrive Evo, which is comprised of our transmitter and receiver. The transmitter would mount next to your current irrigation controller. However old or new, smart or dumb it is, you plug those wires up into it, converts it to a wireless signal. The receiver would mount to the underside of your valve box lid, and you would attach your valves up into it, receives that wireless signal, and actuates those valves wirelessly. So here's your old system with that lengthy irrigation wiring, and then here is with our wireless system installed, getting rid of all those irrigation wires. And this is our stage one solution. And I don't want to talk too much about kind of our future products, but just to give a little, slice of the vision, it's inevitable that as trust is gained in wireless irrigation, that there will be demand for a controller that comes with innate wireless capabilities without requiring this, external transmitter, which is why our stage 2 solution would be to thrive inside, where we license our technology to irrigation controllers and essentially become the Intel of wireless irrigation. Now, this would extend far beyond just irrigation controllers to things like moisture sensors and flow meters, as well as continuing to expand to other irrigation controllers. Now, again, I won't dwell too much on this, but this is where we start to get really giddy and see, even more water savings, and we just get really excited about the future prospects of wireless irrigation. So with all this, you're probably thinking, okay, this sounds great. Surely someone has tried this before. And you'd be right. We've identified a handful of teams and companies who have dabbled in wireless irrigation. The two on the right, as far as we've been able to identify, have not made it past, the kind of project phase, and can't even purchase their products. They never seem to have released. The two on the left are more viable companies, but these are truly the MySpace of this, this wireless irrigation industry, where they just haven't developed their products with the end user in mind, which has resulted in prices that are just unrealistic for landscapers, wireless range that doesn't meet these landscapers' needs. And these are like not plug and play solutions that landscapers can easily install. They oftentimes require like site surveys and site visits from these companies to help install, as well as like just a slew of other features that landscapers really want and that make that a seamless solution to their problems. Now, us on the other hand, we have, since day one, we've been working really closely with landscapers, getting constant input through every stage of development. And so when we did take our prototype to these landscapers to get their feedback at the end, even we were surprised at the results of these. So we conducted 70 one-on-one landscaper interviews across 16 states, found that 62% would purchase our product, and of the landscapers surveyed, this represented $146,000 in annual revenue based on how many units they said they would purchase per year on average. When applied to all 600,000 landscaping companies in the US, this would represent $514 million in annual revenue. And at the end of these surveys, we like to ask them, on a scale of 1 to 10, what they said the wow factor would be. Knowing that anything below a 7 would kind of be hard to gain that widespread adoption. So we're really happy that the average response was 8.25, which showed a really healthy path towards getting that widespread market adoption. So with all this, we actually took our product to the world-renowned Irrigation Association trade show, which is as exciting as it sounds. But it was very exciting for us. Despite having a dinky little booth in the back right corner, we were approached by, the Microsofts and Apples of the industry, Rainbird, Orbit, Toro, all expressing interest in wanting to, partner or talk about acquisition. This was really exciting just because it showed some really viable exit opportunities in the future once we, had completed the product and scaled it. We were able to take this and garnered $85,000 in competition earnings, as well as $520,000 in investment. We have beta units installed at Apple out in California, Irvine Company, a school district, BYU, City of Fresno, among others. And the feedback has been very positive from everybody. The team at Apple said, this was so easy to install. It takes less than 30 minutes to install this. The representative at BYU said, you have no idea how excited I am right now. They were actually just about to spend $10,000 boring underneath the road to get some wires to some of their valves. So they were super excited to have this and want to purchase many more. Our go-to-market strategy is selling through irrigation distributors. We already have 3 who have committed to shelving our product, and they don't have product yet, but they're already finding and identifying contractors who are interested in buying our product and coming back to us with all these feedback of contractors who are excited. So with these partners by our side, our 2022 goal is to sell all 400 units of our soft rollout, and which would generate $235,000 in sales. And then 2023 would be 10xing that. So what does this look like as far as financial prospects in the future, and what's the market size look like? So as we mentioned, our TAM, which takes into account wiring and all the issues around wiring, is about a little over $400 million. And with our SAM being U.S. market, and then the SOM being within 5 years, what we'd expect to be able to capture, what targets we'd be able to hit as far as annual revenue. And again, this is just for our stage 1 solution. Obviously, as we go more into our future products and the Thrive Inside campaign, our market size would increase at every level. But even at the stage 1 solution, we're really excited about the prospects and where it can go. And this is the team that's going to get us there. 3 of us founders met during our time at BYU during a business incubator, the Crocker Innovations Fellowship. And shortly after that, we brought Greg on, who is worth his weight in gold. He, during his career in the irrigation space, has helped develop, market, and sell dozens of products. And yeah, he's been just as valuable as you could ever imagine. We also have a team of great mentors from the business side, the technology side, as well as a 6-person development team with over 200 years of irrigation development experience. So our ask is we're looking for $1 million in convertible notes and safes, with a majority of that being used for inventory to scale, as well as bringing on the necessary talent, completing development of our future products, and as well as sales and marketing. So as far as our milestones go, our previous milestones we were able to meet, and that included completing development of the product, distribution partnerships, getting those in place, ordering 400 units for our soft rollout. And this investment milestone would be used for selling 4,000 units in 2023, generating about $2.4 million in revenue, and then completing development for our next generation products. So it's kind of a final thought. When we look at the future of irrigation, and there will always be landscapes and grass that needs to be watered, but these systems will not always be wired. They will be wireless. The question is, who's going to get us there? And that's going to be us, Thrive. Thank you. Yeah, what questions can I answer for you guys?
That was a great presentation. Let's start off with things that we really liked.
The way you compared your competition was super, super clear. The fact that you highlighted certain areas that were really important. You outlined the brands, what they've done, that they're outdated. It was super, super clear where you are compared to them and why someone would choose you, as well as the background of the product. So I don't have any background in sprinkler systems, but it was clear the need, the diagrams, the graphics showcasing that. And I'm personally a visual learner, but instead of all this grandiose text and having to focus on that instead of listening to you, I think you did a great job of the use of actual graphics to bring out that background for someone who's maybe not as familiar with that industry. And I mean, I'm not going to question you on it because I don't know the industry, but it seemed pretty clear to me what it was. And lastly, I would say that it seems like you have a really great team. And then the go-to-market strategy was super clear. So very, very high level. I don't think you overplayed any of those. So nicely done.
Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, Katie and Kat, great comments. I'll echo what they were saying as well. But just to hit on one of the things that I really liked was the slide where you transitioned from here's what the existing system looks like, and this is what it looks like with Thrive, and how it built it up into you took the wires away. I'm like, very clear presentation of the problem and the solution there. And I thought just right from the beginning, I thought you identified the problem and your solution quite well. So thought that was done very well. Also, I like the fact that you had $85,000 of awards that you guys won. So congratulations on that. And then $520,000 raised so far. That is that's impressive, and a great job there. I also really liked how you explained what the use of those funds were for and how it got you your inventory for the 400 units. And I mean, your ask slide was actually really well done, where it showed this is what we've accomplished with our first round of investment. This is what we're going to accomplish with the next round of investment. So I really like that a lot. So we'll kick things over to Tim.
Yeah,
Awesome.
so I don't know what else I can say about things that I liked. I mean, I will say animations can be tough, and you did a great job with that. I think that's probably the best use of animations I've ever seen. So great job there. And I'm going to echo what Jeff said. Your ask slide was super clear. There is one thing that I would ask you to put on there, and that's your contact information. But I mean, other than that, I love how you've raised capital before. And like Jeff mentioned, you showed those milestones that you achieved, which is great, and then what you're trying to do with it. So overall, I think you did a great job. And let's get to some of the feedback.
Yeah, one competition I did years back, I was about to go up. The guy in front of me, he had a small video animation. Clicker mic wasn't working. Didn't get to go through his pitch. It did not look good on him. And he didn't realize that the mic was still hooked up to him, and walks back to me and he goes, "Good luck out there," and hands it. And then the whole crowd just erupted in laughter before I went out. And I was like, oh, this is going to be hard to follow up. So yeah, that was good, but that was a much bigger audience that I will never forget. So that's what I tell founders. I've personally seen that it usually doesn't go over well. But in terms of some updates that I think you can justify is that I didn't understand fully why you're qualified to take this business to the next level. I didn't think you talked enough about your strengths, the team strengths. You're like, okay, we have a great team, and there's so much text on there. You're going so fast. I'm trying to listen to you. I'm trying to look at this. That in terms of maybe you could do combined experiences, because when you get to bigger rounds, they're investing into you before what you do. So you have to prove why you're qualified to take this company. If you pivot, if something happens, do they have that faith and trust in you that you're the person that can adapt and you understand this industry, you know how to bring on the right people? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I felt like that was missing because, obviously you're telling the story. So you have to bring, I think, a little bit more of your background into that. And then I also didn't understand as much. So this is two parts. In the go to market, okay, what are the geographic areas and size of landscape companies, things like that? It was super unclear to me of where you're going with that. And then is it just landscapers, like you're saying, these, in the university aspect, like who are those other parts? And like, what's that side? Like, how are you going after that? And then for that 38% who wouldn't buy the product, why? Like, if you could address the 38% didn't want it because, and this is what we're doing to fix it, makes me more confident that, okay, you only talk to 70 people. So that's a great amount. It's not 200. It's not 300. So when you get higher and higher, that rate of adoption might go down a little bit. So in this smaller size now, what were those hesitations and what are you doing to make and convince those people? Because you're going to be a salesperson essentially at every stage of the business. So I would always ask, and I would really, I think, be transparent about what happened there, because that's totally okay. But I think the transparency can be a strength in that sense.
Yeah, that's great.
And then lastly, I don't know if it was touched on, if I missed it because I was taking notes, but is there an aspect of it that's in the patent stages or anything like that?
Oh, yeah. Actually, that's completely left out. Yeah, we do have a patent granted and it's more pending, but yep, completely left that out. So thank you.
Totally would address that. Because I'm thinking, all right, he's next to this competition. Well, it's going to be easy for them to wipe out. Oh, Microsoft came to your booth, Google. Okay, well, immediately it's like these flags of what is he doing to protect his brand against them.
Yep, thank you for mentioning that. I know it's been in past versions. I don't know how it got left out on accident in this one. So
it happened. If there's some sort of icon on the slide in the early stages, you then don't even have to say it. You can talk about the certain stage or traction that you've had, number of patents pending. It can also be in their face as like a backup for you.
Yep, great.
Awesome.
Yeah, Katie, excellent comments there. And super helpful. I thought the same thing about what prevents Orbit or Rainbird or somebody coming in and just doing this as well. So I think it's important to mention the patents and that. I did like how you talked about, you didn't come right out and say we're going to be acquired and by this point in time or anything like that, but you did kind of put it out there that this could be a potential acquisition down the road. I actually like the way you addressed that. With that said, one of the first things I noticed when you started out was you said, we all know the water problem. And my first thought was, okay, I don't know if Kat and Katie actually know the water problem because we're in Utah and I know I can only water twice a week, but I don't know if that's the case in Florida or New York or anywhere else. So I wouldn't assume that, everyone has a water problem. So just be careful on that one, and maybe switch up the intro a little bit to make it applicable, regardless. So the other thing that I noticed was, and Katie hit on this, was your TAM and then your SAM and SOM slide. Your your SOM was really small, $21 million. And honestly, that was the point where I was like, oh man, I don't think this one would make sense. It's just not a big enough opportunity for a venture play. But I think that what Katie was saying is that I think your market's actually bigger than what you have in there. So I would revisit those slides and just know that $21 million in your serviceable obtainable market is not very appealing for a venture firm that's relying on you to return their fund through their investment. So keep that in mind. Now, with that said, as an angel investor, maybe I'm okay with that if you've got a good pathway to a early exit with an acquisition or something like that. So again, know your audience and who you're talking to. But even that seemed a little low there.
And this there's a disconnect between what we thought it was, and I agree. We'll revisit that.
So I would revisit that for sure. Kind of related here, and I think this might help with this, but you were missing your financial projections. And Tim's probably like, yeah, Jeff always brings this up because he's with Forecaster, and that's what they do is financial projections. But I see this happen so often that you didn't have a clear path of here's what we're projecting, here's how many companies beyond next year. I mean, I want to see how big is this opportunity 5 years out, especially if you're going down the path of venture capital, where I want to see how big is this going to be, and what and maybe it does say that in year 3 or 4 that you're hitting that the stage 2, some of that revenue starts to come in. But I want to see that this is that you guys are thinking about it, and it's a big enough opportunity that it's exciting as a venture investment. So that was one thing. And then the last thing I had was I actually liked your team, and you supplemented some of that with some experts in the irrigation space. Thought that was solid. I was curious, and I will ask, are you guys all full-time, or I wasn't sure if you guys were just doing this part-time at this point, or who's committed.
So right now Seth is the only one who's full-time, and the rest of us just work on it part-time. And Greg also, he says he's retired, but he's one of those retired people who doesn't know how to retire. And so he works, a solid, I would say 25 to 30 hours a week as well.
Gotcha. And this next investment, I think what I'd like to hear as an investor is that if I'm going to put money in, especially $1 million, that you guys are all going full time, and that's part of the deal.
Yeah.
That this enables you guys to leave your current full-time jobs, including Greg, and to make this your full-time focus. So maybe build that into your ask slide, even as this is some of the use of funds as we're going to bring the team on full-time.
Great. Okay. Awesome.
Cool. So let me just reiterate a couple of things. I think be real careful with how you start. You were talking about drought, and we ended up going to a wire replacement thing. I thought it was going to be, we're always trying to guess what you're going to tell us, right? And so I thought it was going to be some super smart irrigation system or something like that. And that would have been fine. It would have made sense. But it didn't make sense. Like, I don't know how replacing wires saves water. Like, that connection was lost for me. So make sure you're telling the right story. To Kat's comment earlier, like, we'd love to know a little bit about you at the beginning. I think that always helps solidify why did you go down this path? And it doesn't matter what that story is. It just really helps us connect to you emotionally. and to see if you're the right person for the thing. As you develop out that beginning part, also think about your not the competition, but the market here, because you did that 411 million, but is that the replacement market? Is that the fixing market? Is that the new build? Are we talking farms? Are we talking commercial real estate? Are we talking residential? Like, I want you to be that detailed, because you didn't tell us who you're going after. And that would also play into what Jeff mentioned with your forecast. So we're starting in the commercial real estate at schools. And then we're going to do a thing. And then we're going to do a thing and look at how our revenue grows as we grow. I think if you could really understand, or at least you probably know, but we don't know. You just said we're selling it to everybody. And so I think that would help you not only with your market sizing, but your forecast as well. And then your pricing. So I had to like look for pricing, and that's one of those areas where I wish you would have just pulled it out. One system costs this much, expected revenue, whatever, and it costs $5 to make or whatever. Pull that slide out, add that financial forecast slide, and that would be a really complete. And then you can go into the market, because now we're right there with you on the numbers.
Gotcha. Yep.
And so think about those areas. Personal pet peeve of mine, not really, but get rid of the question slide at the end. You don't need it. Just leave it on the ask slide. It's the best slide to end these things with. I say it every time, but just you don't need it. And add your contact information, like I said before. One thing that I'll mention with your team slide, the 600 plus years gets a little bit weird and inflated to me. Not that it's not valuable, but like the average person on our team has over 20 years of experience. Like that you're saying the same thing, but that 600 just feels very like no one's been on doing this for 600 years.
Yeah.
Right. Like, so I think that's such a small, minute detail, but sometimes investors like to pick these things apart. So like we're doing.
Yeah. That's great. Yeah. Thank you.
Let me think. Let me see. Yeah, that's a lot of the things that, everybody else has kind of hit on the other stuff. Overall, really great. But I think if you switch those things up, you'll be in a much better place. All right. So with that being said, now the question is, based off of what we heard today, Kat?
So I would say I think it's super interesting. I think you have a good grasp on things, especially if you have some IP and that gets passed. That's going to be super crucial, because you can even license that out. There's a lot that you could do with it, regardless of some situations. I would want to see a little bit more in the people that you talk to, because a 70-person like feedback loop essentially in just one demographic area seems pretty small for me. So if you wanted to set up another meeting in terms of, okay, this is where we're going after in terms of like more specific on what we're saying in terms of like a market and who they are, where they are, and talking to landscapers in other areas that you're hoping to hit on, I would want to maybe see a little bit more. It's definitely super interesting, but I would want to see, it doesn't have to be in terms of revenue, but at least the conversations and what that feedback is, and figuring out why that 38% aren't converting. You're never going to get 100%. Like, that's part of the game, but understanding why is what I would really need before moving into due diligence.
Gotcha. Yep.
Great. And Brian, I mentioned this before, but the market size was a big thing for me. I mean, that was the one where it was like, yeah, this isn't probably a big enough opportunity is what came across in the slide. And so based partly on that, I think I would probably pass in terms of taking it to the next stage. I think that's something you can revisit, like you said, and say, no, that it's a bigger opportunity. But I didn't get the feel for what the real return on my investment might look like through your presentation. And I think that was my biggest hesitation of saying, yeah, I'd move this into due diligence. If you could fix those things, I like what you're doing. I really like the solution. In fact, I'd be a customer. Sign me up. I'd probably purchase one of your systems, but probably wouldn't move to due diligence at this point.
Okay.
Yeah. So most groups have two types of screenings. They have a screening, like a pre-screening kind of, we'll call this like a pre-screening meeting. then they're going to have like a secondary meeting, and then usually goes on to due diligence. For me, I would have liked to take you to the second meeting, right? I would give you the same kind of feedback that we got today. And what I'm looking for is, are you coachable? If you're coachable, you make these changes, you get me those numbers I'm looking for, I would probably consider a due diligence meeting, because I think the numbers might work out better. Or what it could show is the opposite, right? That the market is really, really small. Where you're playing may not make sense. I don't know yet. But I'd want this company to come back. I think you're a great presenter. I think you have the right team around you. And so there's clearly, putting electricity down just sucks, right? You got to do a whole bunch of other stuff. But like, I think that understanding that would be really, really important. So I would say, I want you to come back and present again to our group. And then if it made sense, if you did the things, then I would want to take you to a due diligence. But that second meeting would be very, very critical. And a couple other things to add to that. Some of the points that Kat made about that percentage of people who did respond and said good. Some information's not worth sharing because it adds questions that you don't want to have to answer. So I'm not saying that's good or bad. You can play with that. But like in her case, she went to the negative side. Maybe it's not worth putting it on there. I don't know. That's just something you're going to have to test. But you did get enough good feedback that people would buy it. If you sold all 400, then clearly it doesn't matter. But things like that. So yes, I would take you to due diligence if you came back with the pitch being the way that we would like to see it. So with that, thanks everybody for being on the show. We really appreciate having Katie and Kat with us as our guest resident experts. Please, if you guys are looking for financial help, check out Forecaster. It's a really great tool. And if you're looking for pitch deck assistance, check out the book, reach out to Kat and Katie. There's lots of great resources out for pitches. And all we want to do is hear really, really good ones so that we can move you to due diligence and learn more about the companies. And with that, we'll see you guys next time.